The truck was still behind us. Not unusual, except we'd been driving for nearly 6 hours without passing a single town, gas station, or exit. Every time I looked into the mirror, its headlights were exactly the same distance away. Never closer, never farther. Then my GPS spoke. "You have reached your destination." The screen showed nothing. No road, no map. Just one sentence flashing over and over. "Do not stop." That's when our engine died, and the truck behind us finally started moving. There are road trips you remember because they become your favorite memories. Then there are the ones nobody believes. This happened in October. 4 of us had planned a weekend camping trip several hours north of the city. There was me, my younger brother Ryan, our friend Marcus, and Marcus's girlfriend Emily. Nothing unusual. We left around 6 in the evening after everyone finished work. The weather was perfect, cold enough for hoodies. The highway was quiet. Music filled the SUV while Ryan argued with Marcus about the fastest route. Emily laughed from the back seat, reading terrible online reviews of roadside motels. Everything felt ordinary, comfortable, exactly the kind of trip we'd taken dozens of times before. Around 9 o'clock we encountered unexpected traffic. A tanker truck had overturned, blocking both lanes. Cars stretched for miles. Our navigation estimated another 2 hours before traffic would move. Marcus groaned. There has to be another route. Ryan opened a navigation app on his phone. There is. He pointed to a thin gray road branching west. "It cuts across the mountains. It'll save 90 minutes. Emily frowned. "I've never heard of that road." Marcus shrugged. "Probably because nobody uses it." I should have listened to Emily. Instead, I turned the wheel. We left the highway. The shortcut began as smooth asphalt. Tall pine trees lined both sides. There were no houses, no signs, no traffic, just miles of empty road. After 20 minutes, our cell signal disappeared. Figures. Marcus held his phone toward the windshield. No bars. Emily looked outside. "Have we passed anyone?" Nobody answered, because none of us could remember seeing another car since leaving the highway. The first strange thing happened at exactly 10:17 p.m. We passed an old gas station. It looked abandoned. Broken pumps, collapsed roof, windows covered with plywood. A faded sign read, "Last stop." Ryan joked, "Guess we're committed now." Nobody laughed. As we drove past, I noticed something. The fuel prices displayed on the sign weren't numbers. They simply read, "Too late." I kept driving. No one mentioned it. Maybe we all thought we'd imagined it. 20 minutes later, we passed the gas station again. The same broken roof, same rusted pumps, same sign, "Last stop." Marcus sat forward. "Didn't we already pass that?" I slowed down. "It can't be." Ryan checked the map. "We've been driving straight. No turns." Emily whispered. It was the same place. Silence filled the car. Then the GPS recalculated. Estimated arrival, unknown. No route available. Marcus forced a laugh. GPS probably lost signal. Nobody responded. Outside, the trees seemed taller now. The darkness between them looked almost solid. Our headlights barely reached beyond the road, and somewhere deep in those woods, something reflected the light. Not one pair of eyes. Dozens. Watching. None of them moved. Yet somehow, they followed us. The silence inside the SUV felt heavier with every passing minute. Nobody reached for the radio anymore. Nobody joked. The only sounds were the steady hum of the tires against the pavement and the rhythmic sweep of the windshield wipers. Though the sky had been perfectly clear ever since they'd left the highway, it didn't make sense. The windshield was dry, yet every few seconds, the wipers continued moving on their own. Ryan leaned toward the dashboard. I never turned those on. He flicked the control switch. Nothing changed. The blades continued their slow, hypnotic rhythm. Emily hugged her backpack tighter. I don't like this. Neither did I. I kept my eyes on the road. The beam from the headlights stretched across endless black asphalt bordered by towering pine trees. Their branches intertwined above us, swallowing the moonlight until it felt like we were driving through a tunnel carved out of darkness itself. Marcus glanced at the GPS again, still blank. The map had vanished completely. Only our tiny blue location marker floated in the center of an empty gray screen. No roads, no terrain, nothing. Maybe the whole area isn't mapped. Ryan laughed nervously. What area? Marcus didn't answer, because none of us knew. 5 minutes later, Emily suddenly sat upright. Stop the car. What? The sign. I slowed down and pulled onto the shoulder. She pointed behind us. About 20 yards away stood a weathered wooden post illuminated by our taillights. A faded highway marker. I stepped out. The cold air hit harder than expected. Not chilly, cold, like opening the door to an industrial freezer. As I walked closer, my flashlight revealed the sign. Mile 0. I frowned. That's impossible. Marcus joined me. We've been driving for over an hour. Ryan shrugged. Maybe this is just where the road officially starts. It sounded reasonable, until we climbed back into the SUV. I reset the trip odometer. 0 miles. Let's see. I accelerated. 10 minutes passed. According to the odometer, we had driven almost 11 miles. Another mile marker appeared. Emily stared through the windshield. No, the sign flashed past. Mile 0. Marcus twisted around. I saw it. Ryan looked pale. It still says 0. Nobody spoke for nearly a minute. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. Keep driving. The trees began changing. At first, it was subtle. One enormous pine with a twisted trunk. Then another. Then another. Ryan frowned. Didn't we pass that one already? The bent tree? I looked ahead. There it was. The same split trunk. The same lightning scar running down one side. 20 seconds later, we passed it again. Only now, it stood on the opposite side of the road. Emily whispered, "Trees don't move." Marcus forced a smile. They don't. None of us believed him. The dashboard clock flickered. 10:17 p.m. 10:18. Then immediately back to 10:17. Ryan checked his phone. It's frozen. Emily looked at her smartwatch. Mine too. Marcus unlocked his phone. Every device displayed exactly the same time. 10:17 p.m. Seconds never changed. Yet outside, the road continued slipping beneath the tires. The engine burned fuel. The odometer climbed. Time had stopped. Distance hadn't. We rounded a gentle curve. A deer stood in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The SUV screeched to a halt. The animal didn't flinch. It simply stared. Its eyes reflected white in the headlights. Too white. No pupils. No movement. Just 2 glowing circles. Ryan rolled his window down slightly. Hey! Nothing. The deer remained perfectly still. Marcus grabbed Ryan's arm. Roll it up. Before Ryan could react, the deer's head slowly turned. Not naturally. It kept turning. Past 90 degrees. Past 180. Its neck twisted until its face looked directly backward. Then, without moving its legs, its entire body rotated to match. Emily gasped. What is that? The deer took one slow step into the forest, then another. Within seconds, it disappeared between the trees. But the glowing eyes remained visible, watching. Then more eyes appeared. 1 pair, 5 pairs, 10, dozens, perfectly still, hidden between the trunks. Marcus whispered, "Drive." I didn't need to be told twice. The road narrowed. The trees leaned closer. Branches scraped against both sides of the SUV like fingernails dragged across metal. Emily covered her ears. I hate that sound. Then, everything stopped. No scraping, no engine, no tires, nothing. The SUV had stalled. Every light on the dashboard went black. The headlights died. Darkness swallowed us instantly. It wasn't normal darkness. It felt heavy, like the night itself had weight. Ryan turned the key. Nothing. Again. Silence. Marcus pulled out his flashlight. It wouldn't turn on. Emily's phone flashlight didn't work either. The battery still showed full charge, but no light came. Outside, something cracked. A branch, then another, closer. Heavy footsteps circled the SUV. Too slow to be an animal. Too heavy to be a person. Something brushed against the driver's side window. A long scraping sound, followed by 3 deliberate knocks. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Another knock came from the rear window, then the passenger door, then the hood. It was walking around us. Ryan whispered so quietly I almost didn't hear him. Don't look outside. Emily's breathing turned shaky. What is it? Marcus answered without taking his eyes off the windshield. I don't want to know. Then, the dashboard suddenly lit back up. The engine roared to life on its own. The headlights exploded into the darkness. Nothing stood outside. No footprints. No broken branches. Just the empty road stretching endlessly ahead. Except, the windshield was no longer clean. Someone had written a message across the fogged glass. Not from the outside. From the inside. 5 large words traced by an unseen finger. You should have turned back. Before any of us could react. The windshield cleared itself. The words vanished, as if they'd never been there. Marcus slowly looked into the side mirror. His face lost all color. In a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Guys." I glanced at the mirror. Far behind us, 2 tiny headlights had appeared on the empty highway. They weren't getting closer. They weren't falling behind. They were simply there, waiting, following, exactly the same distance away. For the next 3 hours, they never moved. The headlights never blinked. They never drifted. They never grew brighter or dimmer. No matter how fast I drove, no matter how slow I drove, they stayed exactly the same distance behind us, like they weren't following us, like they were attached to us. Ryan kept staring through the rear window. Maybe it's using cruise control. Marcus shook his head. For 3 hours? Emily wrapped both arms around herself. It hasn't changed lanes once. I looked in the mirror again. The lights were still there. Two pale circles floating in complete darkness. Nothing else was visible. No grill, no cab, no trailer, just headlights. Another hour passed. The fuel gauge dropped below half. The dashboard clock still read 10:17 p.m. Ryan sighed. "This can't be real." Marcus answered quietly. "I don't think it cares what we believe." No one argued. Eventually, the road widened into 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction. Plenty of room for the vehicle behind us to pass. I eased off the accelerator. Our speed dropped. 70, 60, 50, 40. The headlights behind us matched every decrease perfectly, never closing the gap, never overtaking. Emily watched from the back seat. Why won't it pass? Nobody had an answer. I slowed even more. 30 miles an hour. 25. 20. Still, the lights remained exactly where they'd always been. Marcus frowned. "It's impossible." Ryan swallowed. Unless he never finished the sentence. None of us wanted to. I slammed on the brakes. The SUV screeched to a complete stop. For the first time in hours, everything became perfectly still. The headlights behind us stopped too. Not because the driver had reacted. Not because they had braked. They simply stopped. At the exact same instant we did. As if whatever was behind us already knew we were going to stop. Emily whispered, "Don't get out." Marcus stared into the mirror. "We should at least see who's back there." "No." Emily's voice cracked. "Please don't." We sat motionless for nearly a minute. Nothing happened. The headlights remained fixed. Then, without warning, both headlights switched off. Darkness swallowed the road behind us. Ryan leaned closer to the rear window. "I can't see anything." Marcus reached for the flashlight. Still dead. The silence outside became unbearable. Then, a deep metallic groan echoed through the forest, like thousands of pounds of steel shifting under its own weight. Somewhere behind us, an engine started. Not a modern engine. An old diesel. Loud, rough, struggling. The sound vibrated through the SUV. Emily covered her ears. "It sounds ancient." The engine revved. Once, twice. Then, the headlights came back on. But now, they were closer. Much closer. "Drive," Marcus shouted. I didn't hesitate. The SUV lurched forward. The diesel engine behind us roared louder. For the first time, the truck was moving. Fast. Far too fast. The headlights grew larger in the mirror. The distance was shrinking. Ryan twisted around. "It's gaining." The speedometer climbed. 60, 70, 80, 90. The SUV shook violently. The road curved through the mountains, but somehow the truck never slowed. Its headlights remained perfectly centered behind us. No swerving, no drifting, just relentless pursuit. The first glimpse came during a flash of lightning. For less than a second, the darkness behind the headlights disappeared. We finally saw it. An enormous semi-truck, older than anything still on the road. Its trailer was rusted black. The windshield was cracked from corner to corner. One side of the hood looked crushed inward. The front grille was twisted like broken teeth. There were no license plates, no company logo, no markings of any kind, just layers of rust and dried streaks running down the front. They looked black until the lightning flashed again. Then we realized they weren't black. They were dark red. Emily screamed. "There's someone driving it." Marcus whipped around. I didn't see anyone. I did. What did you see? Emily's breathing became frantic. A man. She swallowed hard. I think. What do you mean you think? I couldn't see his face. Ryan frowned. Because of the windshield? Emily slowly shook her head. No, there wasn't one. Nobody spoke after that. The truck kept gaining. Its headlights now flooded the inside of our SUV. Every mirror glowed white. The shadow of our vehicle stretched endlessly ahead of us. Then, the radio turned on by itself. Static exploded through the speakers. Marcus reached to turn it off. The knob spun freely. Nothing happened. The static grew louder. Then, a voice emerged, old, distorted, as though someone were speaking through broken speakers buried underground. It said only 6 words. Do not let it pass you. The radio went silent. Ryan stared at me. What does that mean? Marcus answered first. I don't want to find out. The truck's horn suddenly blasted. Not once, not twice. It didn't stop. A deafening, endless bellow echoed across the mountains. The sound was wrong. It wasn't just a horn. Hidden beneath it were voices. Hundreds of voices. Screaming, crying, begging, all blending into one impossible sound. Emily pressed her hands over her ears and screamed, Make it stop. I pushed the accelerator to the floor. The engine groaned. The speedometer touched 100 miles per hour. Still, the truck continued closing the distance. Then Ryan looked into the passenger side mirror. His face turned pale. It's beside us. Marcus snapped his head toward the window. The lane beside us was empty. What are you talking about? Ryan pointed at the mirror with a trembling hand. Don't look out there. Look in the mirror. I glanced at the side mirror for half a second. My blood froze. The mirror showed the truck pacing us. Only a few feet away, but when I looked directly through the passenger window, there was nothing, just empty road, mirror, truck, window, nothing, mirror, truck, window, nothing. Emily began crying. It's not behind us. Marcus slowly realized the truth. It doesn't need the road. Without warning, the truck disappeared from every mirror. The headlights vanished. The horn stopped. The road fell silent once again. No engine. No pursuit. Nothing. Ryan let out a shaky breath. Did we lose it? Nobody answered. Because deep down, we all knew something like that couldn't simply disappear. 5 minutes later, the dashboard chimed. The fuel warning light came on. I glanced at the gauge. Empty. It had dropped from nearly half a tank to nothing in minutes. The engine sputtered once, then again. Marcus looked ahead. His voice was barely audible. Guys. A green highway sign emerged from the darkness, illuminated by our fading headlights. It looked old, almost forgotten. The reflective paint had nearly peeled away. Only 2 words could still be read. Exit 13. Below it, someone had scratched a message into the metal with what looked like a knife. I knows your names. As if on cue, the radio crackled back to life. This time, the voice didn't whisper. It spoke clearly, one name at a time. Ryan, Emily, Marcus. Then finally, it spoke my name. And after a long, chilling silence, it said one last sentence. Welcome back.